So make sure this thing is up and running. All right, so cool. It's up and running right now. I should be able to see comments when they come. So, but all right, cool. So here we are, the next episode, the second episode of Unpopular Opinion. So it's myself, Tim. We have. I'll let you introduce yourself, said, and
Yo, what's up, fam? It's Sid. Y'all all know me. We're here for another episode of Unpopular Opinion, and we got some pretty good topics that we're going to discuss, me and my co-host, Tim. And today we are delighted to bring a very, very cool brother that I've known for a bit off and on, had a lot of dialogues with, my brother, Joey, and we'll let him give a brief introduction about himself. Tell you a little bit about the things he has going on in his business. And all right, Joey, I'll let you take it from there, brother.
What's up, man? I'm not sure. I'm trying to find a good reception spot, so let me know if you don't see me or hear me. But what up, Joey? Flawless Torres. I've been through a whole gambit of a lot of different businesses right now. I have Life First Group. What we do is it's a full gym. We do strength and conditioning. We do tactical fitness. We do self-defense with Krav Maga. We also do firearms training. That's what we're doing right now.
all right, cool. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump into the first topic, which is I'm gonna throw it down here on the ticker: legalization of marijuana. Are you for it? Are you against it? Why? And we'll just go from there. So Seth, I'm gonna let you go first. You tell me your thoughts on the legalization of marijuana.
Absolutely not. I can be unapologetic, and that's why Joey's laughing. Like I told you before, man, I'm consistent. I am anti-alcohol. I'm anti everything, right? So Tim and we were actually having a little bit of this discussion on yesterday. We were talking. Hey, real quick, sorry. Brandon just said that the live feed is not working on Facebook.
Oh, really? Let me check it real quick.
Yeah.
6 people are watching, so let me see here. Yeah, there's 2 links, so he's got to go to the top link. I'm going to delete the bottom one.
Is he in the wrong one?
Yeah, I think he's in the wrong one. Yeah, that's 6 people watching right now.
I don't know if I can swing my camera around. Oh, hold on. Hey, Sad.
Yeah.
Oh, you just froze.
Yes. We got a deputy in the house.
Okay. Hey, can you guys still can you hear me or see me?
So my answer's still good by saying, huh?
Can you guys still see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Yep.
Yeah, I can see you.
All right. So Tim, part of the things that we were talking about yesterday is, legalizing marijuana for the entire country. That obviously it would be beneficial as far as a financial aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what everybody's looking at, the financial aspect. But there's another aspect that we have to see is the people that it will actually be hurting, right? So we have a history of seeing that there have been a number of arrests and things that have been towards a certain segment of the community. So I went and I did a little bit of research, and the couple of sources that I used, the first one is going to be it's from the Chicago Tribune. Both of these sources are from April of this year. So the Chicago Tribune has an article, and basically it says that the studies have found that there's nationwide disparities in arrests with blacks, almost 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana. And law enforcement has made over more than 6 million marijuana arrests from 2010 to 2018. And this is according to the FBI database. And Illinois actually has the highest rate of disparity in marijuana arrests in the U.S. according to the study. Only Montana and Kentucky have higher rates. So the ACLU also posted that they're saying that there have been 6.1 from 2010 to 2018. So marijuana was legalized at what year?
Well, it depends what state you're
Yeah, it
talking
depends on
about.
state.
Yeah,
Okay.
Colorado was 2012.
Okay.
Right.
So we're looking at, it says that people of color
Mhm.
in Wisconsin, for example. Okay, so let me back up. 2018 possession arrests accounted for 57% of all arrests in the state of Wisconsin, and
Right.
that people of color were 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than the Caucasian counterparts, right?
Hmm.
And so when we're looking at these numbers, it seems to be problematic if we're going to legalize this. Should we be concerned that a segment of our population is going to be targeted? Because I think all three of us, and I know we're all, and I know Joey, you're pro, law enforcement. I am, obviously, I'm a retired law enforcement, but we also have to address that there are issues in the criminal justice, right? So
Mhm.
that would be my whole issue. Other than also, I
But
think that
so to that point that you just made up, though, before you go to the next point, so if the issue is that these people are being arrested, that we're being arrested at a higher rate because of marijuana being illegal right now, and there's a lot of funding that's being directed towards the arrest and the arrest of people with marijuana. Even the same article that you quoted, the ACLU, they even say that it's a waste of money. Like we would save $3.6 billion annually if we legalized marijuana, as far as just in policing, and then everybody who has a record, they're talking about getting rid of those records if it's just for minor possession. A lot of people who are getting arrested, they're not like kingpins of marijuana or anything. They're basically just getting caught with a small amount. So if you legalize it, you get rid of you know um, that ability to get arrested for it.
So let me ask this, and I know I didn't really look into it. The article that Ray was discussing the other day with the we're going to use the state of Colorado, where that article stated that since the legalization of marijuana in juveniles from, I think was it 12 to 17, something like that, that the arrests that whites and blacks use it at the same amount, but the arrests for
It's
blacks
not.
went up.
It's not the same amount. It was blacks used it slightly higher than whites in that same article. That article that he was quoting. And the issue too is that they said that it wasn't like an increase in arrest as far as like overall. It was just an increase in arrest in schools. So kids were bringing marijuana to school and getting arrested. And they weren't even getting arrested. They were actually like getting fined. They weren't even getting booked or anything. It was an increase in schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joey, you want to touch in on this, brother? Go ahead.
I'm all for legalization. Yes, I back up law enforcement. We can go back and forth all day long, but if you legalize it, there's going to be less arrests. And I know for yourself, as an ex police officer, or right, you don't want to do the paperwork on some little petty marijuana charge. You just don't. And I know tons of law enforcement the same way. And I agree, man. I think it's going to be a less arrest. It's going to save us some money on that front. But I also know what it does as far as money going back into the cities and towns. Now, that I was involved in some dispensaries and grows and whatnot. I think California became too greedy, and that's why it didn't work out here. If we had followed Colorado's plans, it would have worked out great. But again, greed and backdoor policies is what ruined it. I know we did when we were involved. We were donating to parks. We were donating to schools. We were donating to our political campaigns here. We were doing a lot of good work. Now, once they came in and started taxing us, the taxation, we started getting taxed up to 70%. It didn't make sense anymore.
You said 7 or
We're
70?
selling something, but we're getting taxed 70%. 70%. So therefore, how are we supposed to donate anything anymore? They're already taking our money. So that totally put a damper on everything, and that's why I pulled out of what we were doing. But again, I'm all for legalization. I do think it needs to be there needs to be some stricter guidelines that we can all follow. And I don't know about the statistics that you were quoting. so I couldn't really speak intelligently on that. But I do know if you're not following the rules, you're going to be in trouble, period, no matter what it is. If you can only have an eighth on you and you got an ounce or a pound, well, you're going to get in trouble. You know, if you don't want to break the law, then don't break the law. If you know what the law states, it's easy to follow.
So let me piggyback off that. So we already have issues with something. I mean, alcohol kills tons of people. I think we'll agree that alcohol kills way more than marijuana. Correct? We have statistics to back that. So now, one of the things that Tim and we actually talked about this yesterday too. If you look at before, people were still getting a hold of alcohol before prohibition. But I'm sure if you look at the numbers of the people who were probably dying in alcohol-related deaths in comparison to since it's been legalized, it's night and day. So when we right before I retired, we already started seeing a spike in the numbers of people being in DUIs, but they weren't alcohol. You know, they were blowing nothing on the breathalyzer. So obviously, you know, marijuana, right? So accidents and fatality rates are going to go up once it is readily accessible to everybody. Like example, when it is not legal, yeah, everybody knows how to get it, but you still have to go through little extra measures. You know what I mean? You have to go through the extra measure to get it. Where, like, same thing with alcohol. Alcohol is so readily accessible, it's more problematic. So my opinion is when we do this with marijuana, the DUI rates and all of these other things that are associated with it. So I don't think we are actually thinking about the stuff that comes along with, regardless of what you want to say, it's a drug, right? I would say it's low level, you know, but I don't think we are looking at the cons. Everybody, like you touched on, yes, it's going to be a lot of money. There could be good usage, right, for that. But what's the flip side of that? Like Tim, you mentioned yesterday, right, about the whole, look how people are getting strung out on the opioids. So I'll go ahead.
Before we get into that, I just have to interject real quick. Even before it was legalized, how many people died from smoking marijuana versus alcohol?
Zero.
Before, zero. Now that it's been legalized in several states, right? How many people have died strictly from marijuana? We're not talking about DUIs. Zero.
The number's still zero. Yeah. Zero. And that's the thing too, because even in California, medical marijuana has been legal since I think like 95. So and all you have to do is go down to like one of these doctors and say, you can go on Venice Beach, go to one of the doctors there, say you have back problems. They'll give you a license, you know, for medical marijuana. So how many people are getting in, you know, accidents, car accidents, fatal accidents, and it's because of marijuana? Like how much has that number gone up since 1995, and then also now that it's recreationally legal here, you know? So I don't know. I think it's.
I'm sure we both. I'll tell you what. I don't agree with it, but there's people who are going to smoke and they're going to get behind the wheel and they're going to do jobs and whatnot, and they're going to do it anyway. Right. They did it before it was legal. They're going to do it after it's legal. I would much rather have someone who smoked than someone who drank get behind the wheel. And I'm not an advocate for either. But if I had to pick, I'm going with the guy who smoked rather than the guy who was drinking.
And if the argument is that because it impairs your judgment, that you shouldn't be allowed, it shouldn't be legal, period, then you have to look at all medication, you know, altogether. I mean, you have to say, okay, well, you can't take any medication at all. So, I mean, if you have surgery, are you not allowed to now take Vicodin or not allowed to take, you know, some type of ibuprofen or some type of pain, muscle relaxer or painkiller or anything like that? Like, I think
so has Vicodin and other narcotics, have they become problematic in this country with people being hooked on them?
Yeah, we have an opioid crisis.
100%.
That's part of my point.
Well then, yeah, but said that's an opioid, right? How many people are addicted to marijuana? Addicted.
I would probably say a lot of people.
You'd say addicted?
if you are smoking, listen, just think of this. It is like people being addicted to coffee. I don't drink coffee, but there are people, and I don't know if either one of you guys are that they, what is one of the first things? Oh, you know what? I can't function without my coffee. Don't talk to me until I get my coffee. That's an addiction.
So should coffee be illegal?
No.
Okay.
But we're talking about addictions. I'm just giving a correlation to that. But because I would say coffee should be illegal if it can affect your judgment.
It can, though. It definitely can. It's a stimulant.
And if you're driving, you shouldn't drive if you have 10 cups of coffee. So here's something I wanted to ask both of you guys. And we're just going to go, because I know Tim's going to say, well, in a year or 2 years, it's going to be legalized federally. Maybe. You could be right, but we're going to go by today's law of the land.
Right.
Now, with it being illegal, it messes up. So we already have a segment of the country, our population, that has issues with jobs, so on and so forth. Now, we know right now that a law enforcement department will not touch you if you have used marijuana within a year. That is the policy. You can go to any police department's website, and in the background, it's going to say, if you smoke weed within a year, see ya. So there are no government entities are going to. Has it changed? Is it changed to what? 6 months?
That has changed.
Okay. What's the
Joey? I'll get it right here. How long since if you're going to go apply for law enforcement, let's say Riverside Sheriff's Office, how long ago could they have smoked weed? It used to be a year, and now it's 6 months. 6 months.
Okay, so 6 months.
Yeah.
So if you have people that eliminates a segment of the population who can get into, so no government job are going to hire you. I don't think, and listen to what I'm saying, personally, this isn't the hill that I would die on, because like I said, across the board, I can be consistent. I'm against everything. But when I'm looking at the big picture, when we're looking at some of these numbers, right? The segment that is being targeted, that also affects those people when it comes to trying to get government jobs. You guys say that, what do you guys say to that?
Well, I think the only reason why government jobs are affected by it is because it's federally illegal. I think once it's federally legal, then that's going to change. I think once they change the status and the schedule of marijuana, remove it completely from being a Schedule 2 narcotic, right? Once they remove it from that, then you'll be allowed to smoke. I mean, you won't be able to come to work high, but you'll be able to smoke 8 hours prior or 12 hours prior, whatever the window's going to be. And it'll just be looked at as like consuming alcohol or, any other recreational event that may impair your judgment. You can't do it while you're on work or, on your way to work. I think Flores
it looks like he is probably in a bad area. This thing looks like it's timing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you see Brandon's comment. Brandon says cigarettes are also considered a stimulant. I mean, there's not enough in a cigarette that's going to do. I mean,
cigarettes kill you. Cigarettes will kill you. Like
I agree.
Marijuana will not.
Hey, so does eating too many Jolly Ranchers.
Right. I mean, right. And so, obesity as a whole, that's a whole nother thing. Okay, he just popped back. Let me add him back in here. But we lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I missed about a good 2 minutes.
Yeah. But we were just talking about as far as I was responding to the statement about government employees. So I was just saying that, once it's federally legal, then government employees will be allowed to use it. It won't be a hindrance as far as getting a job because it's federally legal. They have the right to use it. You just won't be able to use it, obviously, while you're at work or on your way to work. There'll be like a window of time, I would assume. But
I think
it's going to be just like alcohol. I mean, you can't drink on the job.
Right.
You can't drink right before you go into the job.
When
it's going to be just like alcohol.
I think with military, and here's the thing, I think, and this is just my personal belief, I'm not saying that I'm right. I think if you're going to be in law enforcement or military, you should be set apart, meaning that should be not part of your, you can't enforce, because you're still, no matter what, you will be enforcing laws on marijuana at some point, right? It's just it's going to happen. So I don't think Well, there's going to be, they're not just going to say, hey, you can do whatever with it. You know what I mean? They're like, I'm agreeing with Joey. If it's legalized, there are going to be some guidelines that you have to follow. So
Right.
it's kind of like, I'm going to give you a perfect example. My windows on all of my cars have always been tinted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a law against window tint, there's a vehicle code against it.
Right.
And I personally don't really agree with it because we're here in California and it's 200 degrees. I want to give you a ticket if your windows ain't tinted. But what I would do is if I saw Joey in his car, I can't enforce that. Does that because I'm a hypocrite. Does that make sense to you guys?
But they
I have my windows tinted. There's no way I can stop you guys for that because it's hypocritical. So if you're allowing law enforcement members to be able to smoke marijuana on their off time, I just think it's problematic. We should be set apart. We are supposed to be different from the rest of society. And I'm not saying better. So
right.
I don't want to be confused, but we should be different.
Yeah, let me ask you this then. So are you saying that there are no law enforcement, no cops right now that have tint on their window?
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah, and they can still pull you over for having tint on your window, right?
Is that hypocritical? That's my point. It's hypocritical. You do know CHP, they're captains and sergeants, and Joey, you probably know this. They go around in their parking lots and will make their officers take their tint and all that off their window. And a lot of I don't know if RSO does it. I mean, RPD, our watch commanders and stuff were actually getting on people. So I don't want to say it's not police, but it's kind of hard for the watch commander to pay attention to, 30, 40 cars every single day, with all the different shifts. But yeah, we have sergeants and people like that will bring that up like, hey, you know what? You're not supposed to have your windows tinted. So my point of that is I think it's hypocritical to be able to try to enforce something if you're able to use it, and we should be set apart. And again, not better, but we should be different.
But
and,
you know what, Ted? You can tint your windows. You can. To a certain grade.
You can't, no.
To a certain grade.
You can't tint the front two windows.
Well,
you can't. California Vehicle Code 26708.5 says that your front two windows. Sorry, man.
No, go for it. Yeah, go. Because I'll tell you.
It says that your front two windows tint cannot be tinted at all. The rest of your car can be as dark as you want. Brand new vehicles
leaving off the lot are leaving with 4% tint. So
it's illegal.
It is. But it's still tinted 4%. They sell it just like that.
BMW and Mercedes now are making cars that don't have front license plates. That is something that they're rolling off their factory. My Beamer doesn't have a front license plate on it.
Neither does mine.
And the law says that you have to have a front and back license plate on there.
I got ticketed for the same thing.
You got a Beamer. It's funny, all three of us got Beamers. So I'm just saying.
My windows are tinted as well. Like all my windows are tinted. So,
and by the letter of the law, so you've been getting away with the spirit of the law. By the letter of the law, if you get pulled over, you can't argue that.
Exactly. No, and I'm aware of that. So I know that if I do get pulled over, I'll get the fix-it ticket, I'll pay the fine, and I'll remove it and probably put it back on. But still, I'm not even saying that I'm right about this, but I'm saying I believe that we should be set apart. Well, if it's legalized, I'm not going to be surprised if there's going to be some policy or something in place with law enforcement that they're going to be like, no. I just think that there's going to be some stipulation. He said we make too much. Hey, Joe. He said that your son and we make too much. He'd be the first person under his bed calling 911. He'd be the first person under. Hey, Ray'd be the first person under his bed calling 911 when somebody's in town. Talking about
was that Ray? Was that Ray?
Yeah, tag it. No, my boy, another dude.
Another Ray. All right.
Brandon asked a question. He wanted to know, what do you think about CBD products?
I can be honest. For me, I am ignorant when it comes to CBD products. I don't know enough about it. I got some back issues right now, man. And I was going and I was having a whole bunch of blood tests going, and one of the girls was like, hey, Seth, have you thought about doing CBD or whatever. And, right off the back, I'm old too. So old school, I'm like, no. I'm anti this and I'm anti that. But I do think that there's probably a need for it. I mean, there are people with injuries. I actually, and
Epilepsy?
I don't know, Joey, how much you know about it. My dog suffers from really bad allergies. There is nothing we've been able to put on him, with his skin. So I thought, man, you know what? I wonder if CBD oil or something would work on his coat. I can honestly say I don't have enough information on that, Tim, to be able to give you an honest opinion on it.
Okay.
So look, CBD, we have receptors in our body, right? And I'm not going to get too much into this, but we have some receptors in our body that will only react to CBD for health issues. So again, I'm all for it. There has no THC in it. It's not mind altering, and there's nothing but medical benefits for CBD. All for it. And anybody wants to do the research on what I just said, you'll be able to find it all day. Just Google receptors for CBD.
Yeah, there were a few cases of like kids who had severe epilepsy, and like this girl, she would have, I think, like 4 or 5 seizures a day, or like 10 or 15 seizures a day, right? And what they did was they gave her some drops of CBD, and it stopped it. So and that's a certain mixture that they.
Friends.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm not to cut you off, but I've had friends with stage 4 cancer, and a couple different friends. They said, "Done. You guys are done, though. You know what I mean? Live your life the best you can. You're done." They started taking CBD, and one beat cancer within 4 months. The other one beat it within 6 months. Wow. Doctors told them they were gone.
Yeah.
They said, "Say goodbye. Live the rest of your life as best you can. You're gone." And they're living today. This is years later. CBD works.
So something like that said, would you say, all right, with that information coming in and statistics like that, would you say, would that change your mind on the legalization of marijuana? Would you say, okay, you know what? I see that this is changing people's lives, it's giving people a second chance at life. There's so many health, benefits from it. Would that change your mind if you look at it from more than just purely a recreational drug?
You tried to do the switch and bait. So Joey was just addressing CBD that doesn't have any THC in it.
It still comes from the same plant. It all comes from the same plant.
But it doesn't get you high, right? Like I said, I don't know.
No,
so we're talking about different things. I don't think that it's going to be addictive. I mean, like I said, I am all for if someone, even I'm against marijuana, but if someone has stage 4 cancer or whatever, and they're in so much pain, do we fill them up with opioids or let them smoke marijuana with that? I'm okay with that. But for, like I said, recreational, because really, I've never really had an issue with it as far as the medical usage way, because that's been around for a long time.
Right.
And like I said, I'm learning more and more about the CBD stuff. A lot of the guys who train and fight, as you know, Joey, a lot of those guys use it because there's so many aches and things like that. And my training partners are like, Sid, because I can still train like I'm young, but that next day recovery.
No. So we talked about earlier today, Sid. Yesterday, I hit the gym hard for about an hour, but then I got in another hour of sparring. And then I hit the gym again. Dude, I woke up today sore. I didn't want to move, but I grabbed my CBD rubs, put that on, put a little bit under my tongue, and now I'm moving around. I'm good. And I attribute that all to CBD.
My thing, and like I said, I am honest when I haven't really researched it. My biggest thing would be, especially when I was still trying to get back in, Joe, I told you, like with the DA's office and some of these other government entities, I don't want to have that put on my back or something. And then all of a sudden they're like, whoa. You said you ain't never, because I'm a nerd, man. I've never smoked, a day in my life. And they'd be like, well, wait a minute. Your test is coming back that you got some, marijuana in your system. So CBD. I can honestly say, I don't know enough about it. And that's always been my biggest concern.
Yeah, no.
You won't have a red flag. Oh, sorry, Tim. Go on.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, no, it won't pop positive.
It won't.
CBD.
I will say though that certain CBD or certain ailments will require a little bit of THC in the CBD to really enhance the medical benefits. I know for myself, for what I do and the people I work with on the different agencies, I don't want to use those products, even though I know it's going to help me, because I don't want to get red flagged. But I do know the CBD, as a pure CBD, I'm not going to get red flagged, and it's all good.
Right. You're muted.
Hey, can you go back to Vinny's? Because Vinny, I know you put his comment up there because it's a question directly he's asking me. So he's saying if marijuana becomes legalized like alcohol, law enforcement should not be able to use it because they have to enforce it, but they also enforce alcohol as well. And we know tons of cops who drink.
Right. Military people too, yeah.
And so I would ask both. I mean, trust me, I've known people who have fallen under the double jeopardy of military, right? Getting that DUI off base and then having to get banged by the cops off base and then catching, some, Article 15 or whatever it might, have been for their punishment. So I would say it becomes problematic. And so I think the issue, like his question, is I'm not a proponent of alcohol. So I think that's where my sticking point is. I'm not a proponent of either one because
but you don't think
I know statistically that alcohol kills way more, and alcohol is problematic. It's extremely problematic. So now we are adding something else in. So I mean, I would like for us, what I want us to do, all three of us, what I'm going to do is be genuine. We'll revisit this topic again, and I'm going to dig up a bunch of statistics. Okay. And see if I can compile some statistics and show.
What are you looking for?
I have a quick question, Seth. I have a quick question for you. So I have a friend who's been in jail for the last 15 years because he had the equivalent of 2 J's. That's it, 2 joints. He had the equivalent of 2 joints. It was illegal, got pulled over in the Bay Area in Oakland, and he's been in jail for 15 years over that. Good dude. You think that's fair?
Hey. Hold that, because that is actually going to be, I think, our next segment. that is one of our segments, and I really want to address that. Yeah. Because
one thing I do want to point out, though, before we transition from marijuana, I want to point out that in total, over 67% of Americans want to legalize marijuana. 55% are Republicans, 78% are Democrats. 68% have a postgraduate's degree. 63% have a college degree.
Hey, hold on. I got to stop you.
Go ahead.
Those numbers didn't add up. So you said that because there's only 100%.
Right.
You just gave me some numbers that don't add up to 100%, brother.
Right. So, and I'm going to tell you why. So this is going off the Pew Research Center. And so they say at the bottom, they have a note. They say figures may not add to 100% because of rounding. And then they give like a breakdown of what classifies as white, what classifies as black. But so I mean, it's showing like for instance, for the reps, it's 55% are for Republicans, 55% are for it, 44% are against it, right? So I just didn't give you the against. It was just kind of implied. So 78% of Democrats are for it, 20% are against it,
So what I would jump in real quick. We know just because people are for something, I mean, it doesn't mean that it's right? I mean, we're getting ready to go right into some things with prison reform and address what Joey's asking. There are people all for that, but doesn't make it right. I mean, so we can't always say, oh, just because the majority wants something. And to kind of piggyback off that, and I mean, we can talk about this as well. And Ray at the shop, we have issues too. I mean, every American, everybody loves guns and all that. And I believe there should be reform and things like that. And I know Joey's going to be like, oh, hell no. But but Joey's thinking of somebody who is sound mind and body and his thinking is different. But when we talk about, I mean, there are guns all over, there probably needs to be a crackdown on manufacturers of weapons. I mean, if you look at the numbers of people who are getting killed with firearms, right? So my point in that is I know if we did a poll, it would be overwhelming, especially with the Republicans. Yes, guns, yes, guns, yes, guns, right? But if we look at the number of people that are being killed by guns, it's not really, really good. But I'm going to leave that. But I'm going to write that down, and I want the three of us to revisit it because I'm going to research it a little bit more so that I can get more in depth with it.
All right. So we'll jump to the next thing. Unless, Joey, you have anything else you want to add?
Oh, no, I'm biting my lip because I have so much to add on the firearms thing.
Okay.
I know you did. That's why.
All right. So, here we go. So the next subject. So our changes needed.
Hey, Joey's gonna say, guns don't kill people. People kill people.
But you know, with that said, that's true. But with that said, we have our rights, right? Second Amendment right. But what people don't understand is with those rights comes responsibility. And I think that's where people fail. The responsibility to go out and get trained, to get proper training, to know how to.
Oh, he froze.
We lost him again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to get back.
We lost you. We lost you there for a second.
And we didn't hear anything you said.
Okay.
Last thing we heard you say was trained, and then your screen froze.
Yeah. The passion blocked the signal.
No, all I was saying is that we have a responsibility. So we have these rights that we were given, but we have a responsibility with each one of those rights. And the right to bear arms, there's a responsibility to go out and get trained. You can't. All these people who ran out because of coronavirus, COVID-19. Look, we in California alone, we sold enough firearms to outfit our Marine Corps 4 times over. There's 250,000 people roughly in the Marine Corps, so we sold about 1 million guns. Now, how many of those people went out and got trained? How many of those people actually know how to use a firearm? They don't. A majority doesn't.
So you would say that it's not the guns that are problematic; it's the lack of training that make guns dangerous, right?
It's a lack of training, but it's a lack of protocol, because we have a little firearm safety card that we have to go attest to buy a firearm. That takes literally 5 minutes of study. You read a little pamphlet or watch a 10-minute video, and you're now able to buy a firearm. But how about implementing going to get some basic training first to know your safety and to know how to properly manipulate and carry and or use your firearm? If that were in place, people couldn't just run out and buy guns, and then I would feel a lot more safe as myself.
Yeah, and that was what we talked about yesterday when we were talking about a guy cleaning his weapon and then the gun going off, discharging because he didn't realize it was actually still around in there or something like that, and he killed somebody. Should he be held responsible for that because of negligence, or should that just be viewed as an accident?
He should be held responsible. That is pure negligence.
Yeah.
But that is lack of training. If he had proper training, he would have known press check, magazine check. He would have known all the basic rules. Always keep your gun pointed in a safe direction. Always keep your finger off the trigger until ready to shoot. Always keep your gun unloaded until ready to use. Always know your target, what's in line with your target, what's beyond your target. You know what I mean? Never point your muzzle at anything you're not willing to harm, maim, destroy, or kill. Come on, man, let's go.
We're gonna get back on topic.
We're gonna say, we're gonna do a segment, Joey, just on stuff with guns, because I got a whole bunch of. We could probably do an hour, especially with this dude, because I told you he teaches people, he teaches cops. Matter of fact, right. I'm gonna go to him to get sped back. Get back where I was. So,
all right. So getting back on topic. All right. So, are changes needed in our correction system? So we'll start with Joey. Let's see what you got to say.
Man, it's such a wide topic, but to generalize it, yes, 100%. I think the corrections system is failing us. It's failing the people who are going in. It's failing at all areas. And again, I know a lot of correctional officers. Again, I work with a lot of law enforcement who are in the jails. I don't know what it is. It could be lack of training, or it could be lack of actually caring for people. But we definitely need change. We need to figure out how to actually help people who want to be helped. There are people who are addicted to things, and we could help them once they get in, but they're not being helped at all. They're being housed in the wrong housing, wrong pods, and they're just getting worse and worse and worse. I don't believe in it. I don't like it. It needs a change.
So are you saying more that we need to, and Tim and I were talking about this yesterday, do we need to revamp our laws that are incarcerating people as a whole? Do you think that do you think laws are just for the most part? Because I know I can think of one right off the bat that I would do away with. I don't know if anybody would agree that those mandatory minimums were a good idea. I don't know any. I mean, it was just trust me. One of my best friends got caught up with. He'd never been in trouble a day in his life, and he wound up doing 9 years. That's why when you were telling, 9 years, that's ridiculous. And it kind of touches off. So Tim, when we were talking about some of these things yesterday, and to to piggyback off of the, we don't ever say accidental discharges, right? They're negligent discharges.
Right.
So we were talking about the difference between murder, homicide, homicide and involuntary manslaughter and things like that. So I was saying that, okay, a guy who's cleaning his gun, if he negligently discharges his firearm and he goes to his house and kills the neighbor, I do think that he or she should be punished or disciplined for that. But basically, Tim, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, and Tim was like, no, that needs to be like a life sentence. And, and I think that that's too much, because I'm a firm believer in this. There's a difference. And remember, I said this yesterday, there's a difference between discipline and punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline is you do your time. And then when you get out, and this is where I'm going to agree with Joey, is that the system fails people because, remember, Joey, when we were younger, it was CDC, it was California Department of Corrections. Now it's California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. So where's the rehabilitation part if you make a simple mistake? And like I said, most people killing someone, killing someone is going to be traumatic. There's probably going to be restitution and things that are going to come in play. And now you're telling me that someone who's never been in trouble for their entire life, Tim, should be in prison forever because of a mistake they made?
Well, so the issue I have with it is I think that the punishment should be a deterrent from, doing the crime altogether, right? So when you look at just the return rate of prisoners, once they're released and then going back to jail in America, is 76%. So 76% of the people who get out go back. And even broken down by year, like the first year of getting out, they have a 44% chance of going back. The second year, a 60% chance. Third year, 68% chance. It keeps going up, So clearly the system is not working. Going to jail for whatever amount of time you're going for and whatever they're doing while you're in there is not working. But you look at places like Singapore, where they have an extremely low crime rate, but they have a higher, their punishments are way more severe. If there's a certain amount of drugs like marijuana that you have on you, you're hung, right? Your capital punishment. And so, or you're publicly caned, or there's really high fines, so, but their crime rate is extremely low. So I think that if you enforce stricter laws, you put in place stricter laws that are, either whether it's life in prison or whether it's some type of maiming or some type of murder, or not murder, but you're killed or whatever for your crime, it will deter people from doing those crimes. That's kind of my point of it.
Well, I think the issue that I would have, what you said, Tim, is when you start comparing other countries, right, you have to look at what type of governments and systems they're running. I mean, we say that our country is the greatest or one of the greatest because of all of our freedoms and liberties. We're seeing right now people are having major issues with our government, right? Because the government's kind of doing a China. We're being a little bit, hey, you know what? No, we're going to tell you what you can and can't do. And you're seeing on social media and stuff that people are, there's pushback. People are getting pissed because people are getting mad because they have to wear masks and things. So what goes along with a lot of our civil liberties are, we probably can't be as strict on crimes. I mean, I don't know if you ever were deployed to Saudi and things like that, but back in the 90s and stuff, my ex-girlfriend was over there, and they were pushing all the military to the front of the line. They were still doing public hangings, in the 90s. So do you think that our country should be doing something as hard as that? And then when you say, I am all for stricter punishments, and then I'm gonna let Joey get on this, but here's the problem with these stricter punishments. We do know that there's a flaw in our criminal justice system. So say, for example, someone like Joey is accused of a crime, right? And he has bad representation or something happens and he goes to jail and he's wrongly convicted. We just saw, what was it, Central Park 5 or whatever? Those guys that were in Central Park that just got acquitted for those rapes and stuff that they didn't do, and they sat in prison for a long time. I don't know if you guys know anything about that case. That's when Donald Trump was like, hey, those son of a bitches should be, hung or whatever. And come to find out, there was bad evidence on the cops, and there were coerced confessions and things. So we're going to use Joey since he's our guest. So say that Joey's that person, And Tim says we need to throw the book at Joey, and now Joey's put to death because of these strict punishments. And we come to find out, holy cow, Joey didn't commit that crime.
Right.
So I don't know. I lost you guys for about a good 30, 40 seconds, said. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, I was gone for a good 30, 40 seconds, so I missed a lot of what you said. But as far as...
Oh, you froze up again. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah. Is he frozen on your screen too?
He is, yeah. I can kind of hear him kind of coming in a little bit, but hey, you froze up, so I don't know. You have to repeat what you said.
Oh, I didn't know if I'm back. I do have a question for both y'all because I missed a lot of what was being said. But so right now, what we're doing in California, we're getting ready to, or we just did release 3,500 prisoners, right? We just released them because they said their crimes, jails are getting overpopulated. Their crimes weren't sufficient to keep them in jail. So why'd you lock them up in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense to me at all. So like I said, I have a friend who got locked up. He's been there for 15 years. Good dude. Got arrested when he was 17 years old, 32 years old right now, because he had the equivalent of 2 joints in his pocket. I don't agree with that at all. And if California is saying right now, okay, we're going to release you because your crimes weren't that big of a deal anyway, and why did you lock them up in the first place? I think already that we unjustly lock people up.
So when you mean unjustly, what do you mean unjustly as far as the arrest or as far as the time that there's being
the time? Because again, if you break the law, you break the law. There has to be a penalty. But if you break the law, like for instance, my friend, he does not deserve to be there for 15 years.
Right. No, I agree, especially for something like marijuana, like 2 joints, especially if it's legal on a medical basis. And now that it's legal for recreational use, I mean, he should have kicked him. Should be able to have been kicked. Yeah. So that does suck.
But then as far as what we're talking about, again, what I did catch about a negligent discharge, getting a life sentence versus what type of sentence would you think, says?
I don't know. I think that is going to depend on somebody's their background. You know what I mean? That has to. So your background is. I mean, that's your DNA, right? That is going to tell. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that people can't change, because I'm a firm believer that people do change. But if you have a checkered past, then it comes into question. Maybe you should get more time. I don't know. Maybe 5 years or something. I don't know. I mean, you look at someone like Dante Stallworth, and we talked about this yesterday. Dante Stallworth, who used to play for, I believe it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. He got in his car, was drunk driving. He killed somebody, right? Vehicular manslaughter, and he did a year. Like, to me, there's no way that 1 year is equivalent to somebody's life. I look at that personally, me. If I was a DA or a judge, I look at that worse than someone cleaning their gun or whatever and it accidentally going off and costing someone their life. I cannot be a DA and feel that I can oppose a life sentence on someone who accidentally did something.
But so why would that back?
Maybe,
I mean,
on a negligent discharge, that doesn't matter whether on an ND, right? What's the background? I don't understand.
I mean, let's say they have a history of like fighting people. Does that now make their discharge negligent discharge more aggressive?
I think Joey wants me to clear it up. I think it calls it more into question. Not saying that it's right, but I think that when you have to look at the totality, and that's what the law is supposed to do, right? We look at the totality of the circumstances, and unfortunately, your past and things that you've been involved with do follow you, and they do come into play when it comes to sentencing. And I think all 3 of us will agree to that a lot of times they look at and go, well, you know what, as a juvenile, even though the things were minuscule or whatnot, they go, oh, what do they say, a pattern of behavior? So I think that, for one, I think that it's a difference between going to jail and prison, right? I do believe that if you get in trouble and you do something, I'm okay with jail time. I think that very few people should be in prison, personally. I don't think if you are a drug user, you belong in prison. I do believe if you're the one out here pushing transporting and supplying this. Like, you know, what we talked about yesterday, Tim, I had to write a paper on, I think the punishment for those who sell drugs should be more than those who are addicted and using them. They should be held liable. So murderers are supposed to be in prison, not someone. Go ahead, Joey.
No, but I'm still having a hard time understanding. So let's say again, two cases, both NDs. One person had never been in trouble in their life ever, has an ND, kills the neighbor. Then you have another guy who has a checkered past, has an ND, kills the neighbor. You think they should be separate punishments?
Well, I'm saying they're probably going to be, as far as how the law is going to look at it, because they're going to look at all of the totality of the circumstances. I'm not saying that it's fair. That's not what I'm saying, but we all know that that's how things tend to happen.
And I think that's where the issue is, at least for me. I think that the law should be uniform across the board. It shouldn't be treated one way in one area and then treated completely different in a different, different state or different county or whatever. I think it should be the same. There should be a set punishment for this. If you do this crime, this is what the punishment is. I know you gave the example the other day of like manslaughter and murder. Like, let's say you walk in, you find out that your wife's cheating on you with somebody, and you kill both of them in an act of passion, right? I know in Arizona they actually have an active passion law where you can claim like insanity for that moment, but you have to kill them at that moment. You can't like walk downstairs, grab a knife, come back up and kill somebody. But still, I mean, it's still murder, right? So I think instead of having all these
it's not the same, because murder is premeditated.
Well, but you still, at that time, you thought, okay, I'm going to kill this person. That's what you thought about. You thought about it before you did the action, right? So even if it's not premeditated in like, days or hours.
So the elements in manslaughter are heat of passion and sudden quarrel.
Okay.
Meaning that, say, for example, you or I or Joey and I, we just get into an argument. We're arguing, it gets heated. We get into a fight. Say he hits me and I fall and I hit my head on the corner of a desk or table and I die from that. He's being charged with manslaughter because he never had the intent of killing me. It happened, but his intent wasn't that. And that's the same thing where the laws, I believe, that I'm okay with the difference between if the three of us right now plan and we plot to go shoot some people or whatever and commit a crime, that's murder. But for me to come home and catch my girlfriend and wife, or my wife, upstairs with someone, and then I just lose it all of a sudden, and then I kill her, it's going to be manslaughter, and I don't think it should carry the same weight.
But see, I think
if we stick to see, we keep jumping down these rabbit holes, but if we stick to the ND, the negligent discharge, only stick to that. We can what if this all day long, right? Because even someone brought up another topic, which is, it sucks, but it's true. If you have two guys who did the same crime, a negligent discharge, killed a neighbor, but one was white and one was black, do you think that's going to be a difference?
Well, there's history that there is, right?
100% there is, and that's a bunch of BS. That's garbage.
And I agree with you. I will never sit here, and I'm someone who has represented the criminal justice system for the last 15 years, and I'm in a law program right now. Right, yeah. I do not think that all of the laws are just, and I kind of agree with Tim. I mean, let's look at the whole deal. I can't remember the girl and the guy's name, right? The Texas deal. The female, and Ray and I at the barbershop, we've discussed this all the time. Remember, she gets off on the wrong floor. She goes into the house. She thinks it's her apartment or whatever. Right. And then she shoots the guy. Yeah. And, like Ray and I bounced that back and forth. Texas law actually has it, I think, is it murder 2 or something like that? And for me, that one's kind of rough. I do think she should be punished. I don't, it's kind of hard for me because I'm not privy to all of the circumstances and everything. I find what I do look at is a situation like that. I mean, I have people try to get in my car before. You know what I mean? I've been sitting, I was sitting at Arco one day, Joey, and I'm sitting in my car. I think I had just put some air in my tire, and this white lady opens the door to get in. She's like, oh. So yeah. I can understand how you could possibly go into the wrong house or go into the wrong car. I don't know. I don't
Yeah, but,
know about.
but then your brain kicks in and says, "Hey, this is the wrong house.
I
This is
don't
the wrong
know
car.
about
Hey,
all
that's not
this
my
other
furniture."
stuff.
Yeah,
like,
I can see the wrong car. I can't see the wrong house. To go into the wrong house, I mean,
doesn't smell
first
like your house.
huh?
But I understand how she was charged with that, and she couldn't be charged with murder. I guess was my point, because it's so hard to. How do you have to be able to prove that intent, right? So it kind of goes back to Tim. I'm not saying I agree with it. So let's be clear with that. I think right now I'm trying to explain more of how the law works, and we can all agree it's not the greatest in certain circumstances. So I can look at that and I can see how a DA, someone that they have a hard time, like proving that. The other scenario with the cops that went to the home in Texas and it was just an open door and they wind up shooting the black female through the window.
I didn't hear about that.
I think that's extremely problematic.
Totally.
I would hold him more liable personally than the female that walked into the other apartment.
It's the same thing. I feel like they're both the same. I mean, she went into
Wow.
somebody else's house, even if she thought it was her house. She still went into somebody else's house, and then she killed the person. So either the door was unlocked or she had a key to this person's house. And I think they found out that she knew the guy. I think
They had problems before. So
yeah.
again, they had quarreled multiple times before that, so it seems suspect to me.
Yeah. So that should have been murder. And a cop shooting somebody through a window in their own house, that's not
Murder.
shooting back at them, or that should be murder as well. And that's what I'm saying. I think if we streamline it and we just say, hey, look, this is murder. You kill somebody, without a just reason in self-defense, or you're a police officer and they're shooting at you, or threatening you, then there's murder. And I think it should just be that easy.
So let me piggyback off that too. In these instances that we see officers with some of their questionable shootings, do you think these officers should be charged with murder as well, or should they be getting a different charge because they're doing things in course of their duties?
What was the question again? Sorry, what'd you say?
Yeah, I missed it also.
So we've had, we have a couple of situations that I know that these have been found, like the Philando Castile, right? We all know that, where the guy, he was in the car and the officer walks up on the car, he tells him he has the permit, and then he still ends up shooting the guy. Circumstances like that, do you think officers should be charged for murder?
From what I remember,
they should be held accountable. Yeah, they should be held accountable just like we're held accountable.
Yes. So, what I remember from that case, the guy was just sitting in his car, right? It was he and his girlfriend, and then he had a gun in his lap. Is that what it was? Or he had a gun in his glove compartment?
Joe, I think he had a CCW, and he actually tells the officer, "Look, I got a CCW. I got a permit. I got a gun on my hip," and then it seemed like it just went bad from there.
Oh, so then the cop should be tried for murder. That's murder. That's blatant murder. Like he expressed and showed the credentials to have the weapon, right? So he was legally allowed to have the weapon. And he was shot. He didn't brandish the weapon to the police officer, right, or point it at him or threaten him or in any way. Yeah, and that should be an easy case of, oh, okay, this happened, that's murder. You go to jail.
This was a guy who not only, if he had a CCW, he went out and got all the necessary training. He had to pass everything to get that CCW. He had to apply for that CCW with his local sheriff, right? So he did everything right. When he announced that he had the CCW, well, if the police officer felt uncomfortable, he could, within his right, he could say, "Hey, let me grab it off your hip. I'm gonna hold on to this while we talk. When we're done with the conversation, I can give it back." Now, for me, I'd be like, "Cool, take it. I have nothing to hide. I'm not going to shoot you with it. So go ahead, take it, but just give it back to me." This guy did not do that. He went off and killed the dude.
In my experiences, Tim, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. In my experiences, typically, if someone tells you they have a gun, they're letting you know because they want to put you at ease. Trust me, I've taken guns off of people and I didn't know, and it's not a great feeling. So when I walk up on a car and someone says, "Hey, officer, just to let you know I have a firearm in the car," it actually puts me at a little bit at ease because he or she didn't have to tell me, right? So that lets me know, okay, there's the amount of respect, and they're trying to put me at ease, and it takes me down just a little notch, And then now we can go through the steps. Okay, don't reach for it. Let me see your ID and the questions and all that. So, I think that was horrible, personally. And I believe that officer was acquitted or something, right? And then they ended up like quitting their job. It's something like just something horrendous. And I guess this kind of all rolls back into just how, I guess, what we have issues with, and like Joey was saying, the enforcement of the laws, because I don't really have an issue with laws for the most part, other than I think the sentencing on drug offenses is ridiculous. But as far as like carjacking and things like that, I do think for the most part the sentencings are fair. But in some cases, I mean, they're not holding them long either. Mm-hmm. So if we go back what Tim was saying, do we enforce harder? Should there be harsher penalties? Because I mean, we already put people. I think we already put enough people to death. I think we just here in California we don't see it a lot. Like I said, I think Texas and Florida, and it's either Alabama or Mississippi, I believe, that lead the country of putting people away. I mean, Texas does it a lot. So I mean,
people to death.
And it, huh?
You said putting people away or putting people to death?
Sorry, putting a death penalty. And it goes back to what I was bringing up yesterday. We have a history so the United States, I think, makes up a third of the world's population, but we make up over half of the world's prison population. The state of California has more people in custody than any other state.
But that's what I wanted to say. So again, I agree with the other comment that was up, and I got to see it briefly. But we're focusing on. There we go. So we're focusing on something that, kind of a little bit off topic. So whatever the crime was, whatever it led him to get imprisoned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they being fairly?
What is he saying? I'm focusing on the what? The law prior to conviction versus the corrections.
Yeah. So
is there change needed? And I say there is change needed.
So once they're in jail, what are we doing to rehabilitate them?
I don't think we're doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. So there does need to be change.
You have a friend that's in there. Like I said, I think if the sole mission is to rehabilitate. So when I was working on our pop team, I ran into a guy. He's like 40 something years old, and we do these roundups at the parks, right? We got this grant to go around because we're having all this homeless and transients at the park. So I was talking to this guy. He's on parole, and he looks at me and he's like, "Man, Martin, I truly want to do the right thing." He's like, "Man, I'm 40 something years old. I'm on parole, and I just can't get a job." He goes, "So sooner or later, what am I expected to do?" And I was like, you know what? That, as a grown man, right? I think each and every one of us, at a point, we all have families. How far do you let it go before you do what you got to do for your kids to survive, right? And I think that's where our correctional system is failing, because these guys are getting out. They've done their time. But that's what I was saying earlier, the difference between being disciplined, do your time, be rehabilitated, and be able to get back on your feet so you don't come back. You just read some staggering numbers with the return rate. Mm-hmm. But we're not doing that. So
yeah, I think one of the things too that should be implemented is, like, once you've served your time, you shouldn't be classified as a felon anymore. That should go away. You're a citizen again. You've gone in, you've done your time, you've come out. Your debt to society has been paid, and that should be it. And so you should just be
all felonies. All felonies.
I think with all felonies, aside from, I'm kind of impartial to like sex offenders. I think you should have to register as a sex offender. But just for the safety of children and things like that, especially if it's like you raped a child or something like that. But yeah. But other than that, I think
if I go out and I murder somebody, that's a felony, and I do my time, I get out. You don't think I should be a felon anymore?
I don't think so. I think you've done your time. So if you did 25 years or 21 years or 10 years, however long you did, I think you've done the time. Because then now what happens is you come out, and now even though you're not in prison, you're still in prison. Nobody's going to hire you because, you know.
So that needs to change, because a felon is a felon. If you did something to deserve that, you shouldn't have broke the law in the first place. So now I disagree with that 100%. You get out, you're a felon, you're a felon. But I do think there needs to be change, because you have done your time, right? And some people have truly changed. I don't know what the percentage that is, but I don't believe a whole lot. But even the small percentage that have changed and really want to change their lives, they get out and they cannot work, they cannot feed themselves, let alone their family. Yeah, that part needs to change. But if you've done something wrong like that, nah, dude, you're a felon.
Hey, I want to touch.
Something you wear.
Can Adrian, can you put that quote back up there? I believe absolutely. Like she's the one before that said that they should be allowed to vote. I don't understand that, and that's another issue that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that's punishment. It goes back to they're still being punished. Like you did 10, 15 years, now you get out, and we know like most of us should have an understanding, and I don't know if you guys agree with this. Voting on the president and all and that stuff doesn't necessarily have a lot of influence on our day-to-day lives, like voting on our local levels, propositions, things like that, superintendents, governors, and all that. To me, that has a quicker influence that we can see. So now, Tim, you go to prison, you do your time, you get out early on good behavior, and now, like Adrian's saying, you get out, and now we tell you, well, check this out. Yeah, you did your time, but now you can't vote. So now you can't even voice to make any changes.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I think that I don't think you should have the scarlet letter of being a felon anymore. I think you should have all your rights reinstituted once you come out. Once you served your time, you should be you're a regular civilian again. You know, like
I agree with that, but are you saying that there should be no record of this arrest whatsoever? I guess that's where I just want some
not a public record. I don't think it should be a public record. I think there should be a record, you know, obviously for in a police database or, you know, in the justice system. But I don't think regular people should be able to look up and say, oh, you know what, he was arrested for this crime.
So I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a business owner and a guy does time for whatever he's in prison for embezzlement.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you think you would want to know before you hire him or her working for your company and have them in charge of some funds?
So honestly, I mean, if they've already served their time, then they have just as much of a chance of embezzling funds as some random person that I hire. You know, like I have no idea what somebody else that I hire who hasn't been to jail for embezzlement. I'm sorry. I have no idea whether or not they're going to do it. I hope that they wouldn't. I would hope that they're upstanding citizens, you know, but if I already assume that this person is going to because they have a past, then now they're still getting punished for the crime that they've already served time for. You know, I think that's my thought process. So it would just be, I want that person to be able to have a chance, you know, and I think you take away their chance when you put a felon on them or a scarlet letter on them, a public record on them saying that, hey, look, this person did this crime. They've done the time already. They did this crime. And now you should be wary of them, whatever they do, because they're a criminal.
But you want law to be uniform. You want penalties to be uniform.
Yeah.
Yet you don't think that knowing someone, let's say a pedophile or a sex offender, they're different from somebody who murdered somebody. So it should be different for them.
And that's just because my own bias. But I think realistically, if it was supposed to be like just straight uniform across the board, then no, they shouldn't be identified. They should have the same opportunity as any other person, somebody who stole from a store or somebody who, you know, robbed somebody or whatever. Once they've done their time, then they should be rehabilitated, you know, and
if you personally have the choice right now, if you have the personal choice right now, if someone said, okay, sex offenders, pedophiles, everybody, they can lose that felony mark, the scarlet letter, done today, or not, which one would you choose?
So, say one more time, you broke up for a second there.
You think that everybody, again, if you sex offenders, pedophiles, and all felons, if you had the choice today, would you drop that you can find out that they committed any crime with those two included?
So again, if I'm looking at it from my own personal moral standard, I would say no, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. But if I'm looking at it from the sense of for this to be a fair system, right? If they've done their time, then they should. If they've done the time for the crime, then they should.
So if somebody's their slate is wiped away, so I'm going to go back to you owning a business.
Right.
What if your business is a daycare center with children?
Right.
Would you want to know? And your child is at that daycare center. Would you want to know that that person had a previous conviction and done prison time for sexual abuse on a child?
Personally, of course, I'd want to know personally. I'm just talking about a way of making the system fair, right? So let's say you as a youth, right? You were 18, right, or 19, and you dated a girl who was 17, right? And you guys had been dating for 5 years or whatever, right? But you turned 19, she was 17, you're considered an adult, she's still a minor, you sleep with her, her parents report it. Now you have a what is it?
You're talking about statutory, but I'm going to tell you, and I'm sure we could find some cases, but the chances, trust me, I was a school resource officer, and I had to deal with a lot of that. The chances of the DA picking that up on those type of cases, I mean, they're very slim. And I think you went to a different extreme because that's borderline. I think you could probably use a better example, but you kind of not answering my question. I think that we would all want to now.
I answered it. Yeah, no, I answered it. I said I would want to know, but I'm saying, so personally, I would want to know, but I'm saying if we want to make the system as fair as possible, right, where a person does their time for whatever the crime is, then that slate should be, let's say, in a police record for sure. But I think that they should be given a chance to be a citizen again and not restricted from doing things. That's kind
there
of
should be need change, but I want to know. I want to know personally, and I think that if you put it to vote right now, I would err on the side that felons are going to vote to have to do away with it. Everyday average citizens are going to vote to keep it.
Yeah.
And I'm okay knowing, because I'd rather be a business owner that says, you know what, okay, you've been in trouble before. And I understand that, but I'm going to give you another chance. I'm going to give you a second chance because I believe you've been rehabilitated. But I think that you put yourself too in that situation to get in trouble. And so unfortunately in our lives, our records follow us, right? You don't, when you want to go, if you and I want to go to Harvard, we can't, I mean, we got to submit, we have to submit all our grades, right?
It's a little
we got to submit high school, junior college, but I'm saying that it's part of your past. It is part of the things that you've done. You don't get to be selective and go, you know what? I know that I only got C's. I only got C's, but now I'm a C student. I barely made it, but you guys have to trust me that I'm better and just give me a chance. So they should be able to make that decision.
So using that same analogy, you can still go back and retake certain classes, right? So let's say you go back and you retake classes to bring your grades up. I think that's kind of like what prison is, right? You go to jail, you should have been able to relearn the things that you didn't learn growing up or whatever, as far as morals and how to operate.
And I agree with you, but the school still knows about it and they have an option. They go, hey, Tim, go on back and that C that you got, now raise that grade. So they're still giving you an option. I'm with Joey 100%. I want to know. Does it necessarily mean I'm going to discriminate against someone because they have a felony? It's going to be dependent on what they did. Of course, if it's going to be, and this is my personal side, I can't understand. I can understand somebody personally. I can understand somebody shooting someone, even though I don't think it's right, faster than I can understand somebody messing with little kids. I can't get that because
I don't want it to be confused in like thinking that I'm for like pedophiles.
No, I don't think that.
It's not that at all. On the record. Like I said, on record, I would still want to know, and I wouldn't, I think that they should still be in some type of database. But for the argument that I was making, as far as like trying to make things fair for felons once they come out, or prisoners when they come out, so that way they can integrate in society and not return back to crime. I think you have to remove that stigma.
I think that the change has to happen while they're incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some type of rehabilitation, and then we can go from there.
Yeah. So let's say
right now there's no rehabilitation. It's sad, but I don't know what the numbers are, and I'm sure either one of you can find it, or I can Google it and find it. But the amount of felons that return to prison or break the law again, I bet you are high through the roof.
76.
So
yeah.
Okay, so there's no real rehabilitation.
Right.
So
right.
if as a business owner or just a common citizen, civilian, whatever, a business owner, yeah, right now I need to know if you're a felon, because I know the likelihood of you returning to crime is higher than.
Oh, you broke up. You're breaking up. But I think the reason. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? You're breaking up really bad. I can't hear. I don't think we can hear anything you're saying. Can you hear him say?
Yeah, he's froze on my end.
You broke up there. So you stopped at rehabilitation.
So if I knew that there was a program while they were imprisoned that they truly did get rehabilitation, they truly did get help, that would change my opinion a little bit differently. But right now, that's not happening.
So so let's say there's a program in place where you can verify, some quantifiable way of finding out whether or not they were rehabilitated. Would you then say, okay, we should remove the felon status from them?
On some, but I think a pedophile, sex crimes, nope. Not at all. Yep.
All right. Well,
prisons are more concerned to make money. Sex, okay.
Private prisons are.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move to the next one. We kind of covered this one, just a change in prison sentencing. I guess we could talk about that.
Well, I think we already pretty much covered it.
So we'll go to the last one because this has been we're almost at an hour and 20 minutes. So last one, best rapper alive.
Alive
or dead. Best rapper alive or dead.
Well, my guy's still alive. Rakim.
Okay, I've never listened to Rakim, so I can't say anything. When we get off this, I'm gonna have to sit back and listen to some of his music. But yeah, I'm gonna say Lupe Fiasco.
You were disqualified. You were just hey, Joey. You and I are going to be hosting this next week. Wow. He is disqualified from having this conversation.
Have you listened to Lupe Fiasco's Food and Liquor 2? It may be the greatest album that's ever come out.
Well, hold up. You can't even say that because you haven't even listened to anything by Rakim.
I mean, that's true.
What are you talking about?
So from what I know, maybe I should preface it that way. From what I know, Lupe Fiasco, greatest rapper all time.
He just disqualified himself
to open up and listen to better music. Rakim.
Wow.
So Joey, Ray, and I have gone back and forth. So are we saying that who our favorite is, or who are we gonna? Because we could go back and forth. And we can argue about MJ. I'm taking Kobe. Maybe it's some MJ hate, but I'm taking Kobe over Mike. So, I mean, and that could be another debate. We can get on, I think that maybe we can, next time. It took me, hey, I'm going to say maybe Pippen was the greatest because, Jordan was getting put out the first round until Pippen came to town. Hold on.
Okay, and then you're also going to be like, yeah, Pippen got paid more over his term in NBA career too, so that makes him better. Nope.
Hey, I never said Pippen was better. I would never say that. Hey, we're definitely going to do a segment on this because I think next time, because that'd be awesome. So and I had to be objective.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at the totality of everything, right, we have to encompass everything: record sales, influence on society, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It pains me to say this, but I'm going to have to say Jay-Z.
No, that'd be wrong. If you're looking at record sales and influence, my bad. Go ahead.
I know you're gonna say Eminem. I like Eminem better, but I'm talking about
that's what it would be. That's what it would be.
But Joey, you already know who I'm taking over everybody. The greatest rapper in the 90s whose life got cut too short, Tupac. I'm going with Pac.
I love Pac, but nah, he's on my top 10, but nah, he's not the greatest of all time.
I'm being honest. I will lean if we're doing, because like we don't have enough sample size for Pac, right? He was what, early 90s, and he got killed in 97, 98, right? Yeah, or maybe 96. So
Yeah.
his shelf life was great, but he had a hell of a 5-year run. Man, you were about 4 years old when Tupac was around.
look, he was too wishy-washy. He's too wishy-washy, man. Like he was like intellectual at one point. He's intellectual in some songs.
Oh man, I'm offended.
No, I'm just saying, Pac was all over the place. Like he was a gangster rapper at times, then he was like a conscious rapper, and then he was making love songs. Like I don't know what he really. It seemed like he seemed too fake. It seemed fake.
It was so bad. It was so bad. You froze Joey's signal. So what you were telling me is you take.
Well, I think he's trying to come back in.
Bro, I'm concerned about your credibility. You said Lupe Fiasco over Tupac.
Oh yeah, have you listened? But have you listened to Lupe?
There you go.
Have you listened to him? If you haven't listened to him, like what song are you referencing when you think about Lupe Fiasco? Hopefully, it's not Kickflip.
Kickflip was still cool. I mean, it was a good commercial hit. It was a good commercial hit.
I'm talking about his you got to listen to like Food and Liquor 1, Food and Liquor 2.
Man, listen. I'll just a small piece of my background. Man, I produced for every major West Coast artist. Period. I was a producer, been in the game, worked with a lot of cats, and I will tell you, Lupe Fiasco is not near top 10 at all.
Oh wow! I thought you were going a complete different direction with that.
No.
I didn't.
Wow. I'm just talking about as far as lyrics, just lyrics. You're saying the content, lyrics, style, delivery.
He's cool.
Yeah.
And I think he's better than a lot of other cats out there, but near top 10? No,
Yeah.
he might be in my top 100.
Okay, I still respect.
I'm gonna have to go and listen to him. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to him. Like if I say like I actually like Nas, and I know a lot of people don't care for Nas, but I like Nas a lot. I think Nas is nice.
Nas
yeah,
is good. He said Lupe can't hold a can. Jeez.
It's a lot. It's like that's a lot of disrespect. Next thing you do, gonna be telling me Kanye West.
You know what? I should actually, you know what? How many people could be on this? I should call up Lupe right now and put him on this. How's that?
Hey, look, call him. Got him. Bring him in. We'll have some intellectual conversation with the man. He's pretty
hey, but you know what? Personally, if I have to say, as far as lyrics and all that, and this is just me, the only reason why I can't really get on board with him is because I think that he's actually really violent, and I can't listen to the music all the time.
Lupe?
No.
Oh.
I said is Eminem. I actually think Eminem is one of the coldest as far as rapping.
Yeah. I'll agree with that.
I like him. It's just I can't really follow a lot because I can't relate to setting people on fire and things like that. But I like some Eminem. I think he is dope.
But you know what? That was shock rap, and him and Dre also admitted to get him actually noticed, because at that time, the white rappers they weren't getting any love whatsoever. That was pure shock rap, just to drop him on the map. So I get the tactics and why he did it. M is still on the top.
Yeah.
Not above Rakim, but he's up there.
Okay, all right.
He don't even.
When Lupe is right next to Eminem, I'm just gonna end it on that. But
you're fired.
I don't know. Hey, Joey is a good brother, man. We can't even get him back on the show. Everybody logged off, man, when you said Lupe Fiasco, bro.
Oh man! But,
hey, he had the nerve, Joey. He had the nerve to ask us about rap, and then you never listen to Rakim?
I've never. I may have heard like one or two songs, but I don't recall. It wasn't. I think it's before my generation. So it's hard for me to kind of get into it. I like Big L.
You got some Pac. I bet you got some Pac in your soundtrack. I bet you got some Pac in your playlist.
How about this? I bet you you can ask a 12-year-old right now today who Tupac is or was, and he'll know. And then you ask him who's Lupe Fiasco, and be like, who?
I mean, he wasn't main. I'm not saying he's mainstream. I'm talking about quality of work. That's the body of work. Go. This is what I want y'all to do. This is the assignment I'm gonna give you guys. Go listen to and I guarantee you will have that song, that CD playing for the rest of the year. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, I'm gonna defer to my man Joey because Joey came from this industry. Hey, did he lose his credibility on that? Bro, you lost your credibility on it, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate you guys doing this. I'm gonna jump off. We've been off like an hour and 25 minutes. So I don't know if you guys got any closing statements. No,
Joey, you go ahead and start it.
I think he's frozen.
I appreciate it.
All right, you're back. What'd you say?
Oh, I said I just appreciate being on here with y'all. I appreciate you, Tim and Cedric. I'd do it at any time. This is fun. Thank you.
All right.
We're gonna have you back, man, because we definitely, man, all the stuff you know about guns. I think that you could actually drop a lot of knowledge and educate some people. And you and I will definitely. I don't know Tim's take on guns, but we're gonna have a lovely discussion on the rights of people having certain types of guns. We could probably go an hour on that alone. So, man, I appreciate you.
Totally.
Hey, thanks again, Tim, man. It was a pleasure, man. And we'll do it again soon.
Okay. All right. Peace out.